Mrs. T here. Welcome back to the art room. So for today's enrichment activity, I'm going to teach you how to build a homemade compass. What is a compass? Some of you were given this activity as a challenge in the first 2 weeks before spring break. But for the rest of you, this may be something new. So let's talk about what a compass is. A compass, I'm going to zoom it in here. This is a compass. You may have seen it in the math room, or maybe you've already seen it in the art room. But a compass is a tool that we use in the art room to make a perfect circle. It has a sharp point, which is a pivot point, which allows us to rotate our tool, and you'll see that there's a pencil on the other end here. And the pivot point holds the tool in place as we rotate it around, leaving a pencil mark of a perfect circle. Now, this pivot point is pretty sharp. So there's a lot of things that you have to take into thought when you're utilizing a compass. You don't want to put a hole in your paper, but essentially it allows us to use this tool to make various different sizes, and all you have to do is expand it to make bigger ones, tighten it to make smaller ones. So I just went ahead and I made a couple circles here. If you can see, look at those perfect circles. They're beautiful. That's a great start to a mandala. But not all of us have these tools in our home. They're not very expensive, but until you need it, you don't necessarily purchase it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use things that are just lying around the house to create one in case you need to make a perfect circle. So I'm going to set you up. I'm going to move you over here so that you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you the tools that we're using as we create and show you how it makes us a perfect circle. All right, so the first one is using 3 sticks of some sort. It could actually be maybe 3 pencils if that's all you have. It could be, really 3 chopsticks if you have those. I just happen to have these craft sticks, so I thought they were perfect to use. So you would need 3 of these. You'd need some type of writing tool to attach to it. I'm going to use a marker so that way you can see the circle better. And then you need 3 rubber bands. Now, there are lots of different sizes of rubber bands, and it doesn't necessarily matter what size the rubber band is, but you don't want one of those like really huge ones because then you have to wrap it around a lot. So for this one, it's pretty easy and pretty quick. So I'm going to first take 2 of my dowels or 2 of my tools that I'm using, and I'm going to wrap them at the top. It almost looks like I'm trying to create a teepee. And you just kind of go around and around until you get it nice and tight, okay? The next part is your crossbar here. So to do your crossbar, you are going to take one side, use 1 more of your rubber bands, and you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to just attach it by doing the rubber band. So now you have 2, okay, there we go. So we have 2 corners attached. This third one is where we're going to determine how big of a circle we want. So I don't have a very big piece of paper, so I know my circle's going to need to be kind of smaller. And I have all this left over, but that allows me to make much larger scale circles. Now, when I attach this one, I also have to attach my writing utensil. So what I'm going to do, since I'm using a marker, I'm going to take off my lid. I've got to know where my point is, and my point needs to stick out, if you guys can see, hopefully, maybe, a little bit further than the edge of my stick here. That way I can write with it. And then now, this one's a little trickier to do, I'm not going to lie. Because we have this long end, we have to wrap all 3 of these pieces around. Now I do this because I have this long end a few times, and then the rest I just use on my writing utensil just to make sure that stays in place. Now I have myself my compass, and so I'm going to go ahead and use this on my circle. The one side is my pivot point. My writing side is the side that I rotate, or that leaves the mark. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand in place, and I'm just going to rotate my paper. Now I made mine so that it's going to run off the page here, and apparently my marker's like dying. It doesn't have any ink here, but it created somewhat of a, oh, there it is. Okay, it created, oh, poor marker, it is dead. I'm going to go ahead and grab another one and just kind of re-outline that line so you can see that it made, although it went off the edges of the paper, it still made us a perfect circle. Oop, it's got a little bit over here too. So there we go. In the end, you can see we have a perfect circle. All right, so there's one option. The next one is using 2 pencils and a paper clip. If you don't have 2 pencils, you can use 1 pencil, a paper clip, and a nail. With this technique, you are going to place your paper clip down on the paper. You're going to use the nail or your second pencil, either way, doesn't matter, as your pivot point, and you're going to hold that with your hand, and then at the other end of your paper clip, you're going to put the pencil, and you're just going to rotate around. Now, this technique has limitations. Of course, you are limited to how big the paper clip is. You can get a secondary, well, you can get 3 sizes, because if you notice in your paper clip, you have this end, you have this end, so you can make a slightly smaller, I'm going to try to find that same pivot point, slightly smaller circle using that inner part of the paper clip, and then you can make one more extension by folding out your paper clip. So now you just created the opportunity for a larger circle. Go around again. Ooh, got me my circle. What's important though is that you hold that pivot point straight. So here we have 2 homemade compasses utilizing tools that are just laying around the house to help us to create the perfect circle. I hope you're staying creative. This is something that you can use many different capacities as you are creating at home and in the future. So I hope this tip was useful and that you take the time to try making yourself a homemade compass and get some perfect circles. Have fun, don't be stressed, and we'll see you soon, Boone Meadow.